Yeah, it's 12 o'clock. Welcome everyone to Lunch Without Lunch. I'm Amber Rowden. I'm the community storyteller at Rainforest Alberta. We have Bridget Legault, the community manager at Rainforest Alberta. Feel free to give a wave or, say hi. If you are new to Rainforest, please share a reaction on screen or introduce yourself in the chat. We're all about getting to know new people and introducing ourselves. You can follow us on social media at Rainforest AB or Rainforest YEG. So before we get started, I'm just going to share. Oh my gosh, I have to reshare my screen because
While you do that, welcome Sean, first time here. Feel free to share your LinkedIn profile in the chat.
And I never asked.
Sorry, Bridget.
No, that's okay. You've got the black box. There you go. That's a bit better. Cool. One day we'll figure out your black box dilemma.
I know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
I'm here if you want to message me on
Thanks, Rob.
to help out. But I remember we talked about the black boxes before.
Yeah.
On that one.
Ross tells us things, Amber and I go, and then we don't to handle it. Technology.
It's the computer. If you want to help and donate a computer to Rainforest, get them a machine that has a dedicated graphics card that's capable of doing screen share without the black boxes. That'd be appreciated.
Yeah, good PSA. Welcome to all the newcomers in the chat, but we'll head into our land acknowledgement. Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, Ross. You're the best.
Ooh, Ray's got a PC.
We're gonna start with the land acknowledgement. This is from the Rosa Foundation and the Calgary International Film Foundation.
Growing up, my grandma always told me that the land took care of us, and it still is taking care of us, and it never asks for anything back.
It is a way of life to always honor the environment. It's not something that you just can turn on and off. It's a living daily lifestyle.
And that acknowledgement is a way to acknowledge that we're coexisting in this land with the native people, and we should acknowledge that this is actually their traditional territory. But at the same time, we are all guests to this land.
The land plays a big factor in who we are. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us strong people.
Awesome. So if you're coming from somewhere else in the world, please feel free to share your own land acknowledgement in the chat. And like always, if you're interested in sharing your own land acknowledgement at the beginning of Lunch Without Lunch, please feel free to reach out to me or Bridget. We would love to have you share that at the beginning of Lunch Without Lunch with us. So Rainforest Alberta, we're a community of innovators working to build trust and diversity in Calgary and Edmonton. More specifically, me and Bridget work in Calgary. But here's a video to kind of explain what Rainforest Alberta is all about.
What does it take to realize an idea or for a seed to sprout? At Rainforest Alberta, we know the answer is rooted in trust. Traditionally, Albertans have cultivated their ideas in established systems. Inputs that don't fit these systems are weeded out. Opportunities for growth are missed. But now, Albertans want a dynamic landscape that can evolve organically, like a rainforest. At Rainforest Alberta, we believe a culture of trust is the fertile soil where ideas grow. Our budding innovation ecosystem is a network of relationships pulling each other up as they push forward in their own field. Trust breaks down barriers. An open, inclusive network increases collaborative innovation. Successful breakthroughs inspire new ideas. A cycle begins. Rainforest Alberta is a movement to amplify trust by cultivating honesty, inclusion, and accountability. How? Our social contract holds us accountable to demonstrate trust across the province. We meet to have honest conversations around collaboration. This leads to more inclusive spaces for everyone to fearlessly build new ideas together. By raising the standard of trust, Alberta's ideas, talent, and resources can be evergreen. Visit rainforestab.ca to sign the social contract and start growing together.
So we use 6 pillars to guide our conversations and actions, and not all are weighted equally. Like any ecosystem, the right balance is crucial, and we measure these each year through our scorecard assessment. I will be passing it over to Bridget in a couple slides to talk about our scorecard assessment that is happening right now. We focus on culture, which is 30%, and that's probably the heavily weighted one in the ecosystem, and one that we focus on a lot at Rainforest. 20% for leaders is another one that we focus on a lot at Rainforest. 15% for resources, 10% for engaged activities, such as activities like Lunch Without Lunch, 15% for policy and infrastructure, and 10% for role models. So tips to making the most out of Lunch Without Lunch: introduce yourself in the chat, what you're working on, what you're looking for, what you can offer. We're always looking to make those introductions, those random collisions, and getting to know one another. Connect with individuals through direct messaging. Put your camera on. It's always great to see everyone's face and put a name to that face as well. Ask questions. Curiosity is what keeps us going. So ask those questions in the chat. You can keep connecting on our Slack workspace and also on Inkly, which we have a slide to talk about that as well. Check out #lunchnotes for capture of today's chat, and our recordings are always posted on YouTube. So if you missed a session, please feel free to check back on YouTube and check those out. So each week we talk about a value from our social contract, and our social contract are 10 values that we live, work, and play by and really embody in ecosystem in the work that we do. So this week is diversity. So I embrace diversity, strive to create equal opportunity for every person, and I'm open to meeting anyone in this community. So if you scan that barcode, it'll take you to the social contract. I will also throw the link in the chat. And just think about diversity and how not only can you embrace that this week, but like every single day of your life, in your professional, in your personal life. That's the goal of the social contract, is to live these values. And so I'm going to pass it on to Bridget to talk about our scorecard assessment.
Thanks, Amber. Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget, Community Manager in Calgary, as I think Amber mentioned. Maybe just on the note of the social contract, firstly, excuse me, we'll give a quick update. Last night, Amber and I were very grateful to have been given a presentation by a team at Inclusity, who have been working for the last few months on an inclusive user testing on the social contract. We knew from feedback and our own observations that some of the language within the social contract was different, not necessarily accessible, and kind of difficult to understand if you didn't have the context of those who wrote it. So our social contract was written by early community members back in, I think, about 2015-ish. And I think if you weren't part of that core group, there was some wording on the contract that would be a bit tricky to understand with that lack of context. And so anyway, we wanted to make it more accessible. We wanted to make it more compelling. We wanted people to be really engaged and motivated to live by the contract, of course. So they've presented us with some incredible work from their user testing, and we will be working to implement their recommendations into a new scorecard and possibly to the entire kind of Rainforest brand, for lack of a better word, so that people can better understand this analogy that we stand for, which is all around actual rainforests being like ecosystems, tech ecosystems, which is what the whole book, Rainforest Building the Next Silicon Valley, is about, and what this movement is based upon. And it's all about those pillars and the balance of those pillars, but also about especially the diversity that's necessary, the trust, the collaboration that's required to effectively accelerate innovation in Alberta. And so very exciting stuff, and the work continues in the background. So stay tuned. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Inclusity is an awesome new nonprofit that can help you with your own product inclusive user testing. If you're interested, reach out and we can connect you there. Someone might even be here today from there. And now on to the scorecard assessment. So again, back in the early days of Rainforest, I like to give this context because it helps to better understand why we run the scorecard assessment. When the scorecard was founded upon this book and research, there were some consultants in the US who were really had kind of made themselves experts on the topic of this rainforest analogy, and they came up to Alberta and they worked with our early founders to help create both the social contract and our measurement of the 6 pillars of the ecosystem, which Amber outlined. And so we used this assessment for many years, but it was actually written for organizations, not for measuring ecosystems. So the wording wasn't quite what we needed. And then in 2019, these consultants recognized that our movement had outgrown the work that they provided, and so they discontinued working with us after several years, and we the community at the time took upon ourselves, I guess, to rewrite the scorecard. But what happened in that effort was that, well, really too many cooks in the kitchen, so we can't have an effective survey tool if too many people are trying to write the survey. And so last year, we enlisted the efforts of a psychometrics expert and fantastic human PhD candidate from the UFC, Janelle Morgan. We enlisted our DE&I consultant, Rachel Wight, who you've seen around the rainforest several times over the past few years, and a data analytic group called Cashew, who are a team here in Calgary. And it looks like we'll have support from maybe a few other academics and the like to help us with this year's assessment. So the survey has been rewritten. It is a much better tool to measure the ecosystem once we get engagement with the survey. And we're hoping to get over 200 surveys submitted this year as a goal. So if everybody could open this right now, not necessarily do it while we're all here today, hopefully we're all listening and engaging in this hour, but you can keep it up on your screen, do it later today or whenever it works for you. And please, most importantly in this ask is share it with the teams you work with. It's great to fill it out, but we really need that extended reach to get a good sample size. So please, 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 share it with participants in your program, share it with your founding team, share it with your department, wherever, whatever your situation is, just share, please. Anyone who is new or been around the block in Calgary, particular tech. Edmonton has its own scorecard. This one's focused on Calgary, but anyone who touches our ecosystem, new or old, we'd love to hear their perspective and get a really strong sample size this year. So I'm intentionally speaking at this length so this QR code stays up and everybody opens it and submits their responses, please and thank you. If you want this QR code to share elsewhere, we can do that too. Maybe it's usually I think it's in Slack, so you can just download the image there. Yeah, and we'll have results out from this assessment in early mid-Feb. I think the 8th we're scheduled to present it back to you all Wednesday at lunch. Thanks, Amber.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, and if you haven't heard about Inkly, it's something you need to be on and do. It's about generating questions that are curious and generosity. And it's the platform that we are on now. We are kind of trying to move away from Slack. We are still on Slack. However, we've moved away from Inkly. It's about asking questions and getting matched to people that can answer those questions. And all you have to do is ask. So if you've signed the social contract in the past, you should have received an email to join Inkly. And it's dependent on the email that you signed the social contract with. If you haven't signed the social contract yet, you can scan that barcode and that'll take you to the link to sign up for Inkly. If you're having any trouble figuring out which email or having any trouble signing up to Inkly, please reach out to me and Bridget, and we can also help you get onto Inkly. Is there anything you want to share about Inkly, Bridget?
Yeah, sure. I'll also just add here that so next, and related to the scorecard as well, next Thursday afternoon from 4 to 6 p.m. Amber will put the registration link in the chat here. We are going to be meeting in person and invite you all and all your friends in the innovation world to come and join us at Platform. We'll be in the Investors Lounge, which is on the second level just above the pitch stage. We're going to have the founder from Inkly there. We're going to have the founder of the Rainforest there. We're going to have incredible female leaders like Kylie Woods, the founders of Tacit Edge, Krista and Renee, and many more to talk about the importance of the scorecard, what it really means. Something we're recognizing is that there's a lot of newcomers in tech in Calgary, which is absolutely fantastic. But the understanding of the scorecard and the purpose behind it and the power of the data we'll get from it and what we can all use that data for to move the pillar scores forward and our industry forward will all be discovered further, both using the Inkly app that day live interactively at an event, and we'll also have a bit of a workshop for you all, and we'll also hear from those leaders about their take on why the scorecard is important. So please join us next Thursday, the 19th from 4 to 6 p.m. and we'll get the registration page in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Bridget. Yeah, I will share all of those links that we've mentioned in the chat. And now on to our guests of honor, Meghan and Alicia. You have seen them around in the rainforest, and they're here with us today to focus on New Year, New Lens. And we're very excited to hear from them. We're very happy to have them. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to them to take us through this hour.
Awesome.
Thanks, Amber.
Thanks so much. I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see what we're talking about, hopefully. When you all disappeared on me, there you are. Okay, I'm getting myself set up. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, looks good.
So when, I mean, we had a nice conversation with Amber and Bridget as we talked about what we were going to talk about, what might today be about. And Meghan and I had a really sort of fun conversation around the great learning that comes from, you know, a new year, new lens, but most importantly, actually from reflection. And so this is kind of entertaining if you listen to the warm-up conversation, which was about people being really happy 2022 was over. And now we're going to take you through some activities where we look back. Because the opportunity to reflect is giving us an opportunity to celebrate what we did great, but also to learn from where things maybe didn't go so well. And so that reflection is really critical to our learning. So while there's a lot of opportunity to look at the year forward and what we want to do, we're really want to take a minute. Our new lens is really about, you know, grounding yourself in what you have done. Right, Meghan, there we go.
Perfect. Yeah, I can see that. I would love to know from people, even if you want to throw it in the chat, words to describe how you feel about the new year. When you think about the year ahead, how do you feel about it? Are you excited? I see Graham's going optimistic, maybe hopeful, nervous, about the same as last year. What is that, Robert? Is that good? Not good? Trepidation? Yeah, fairly good. Good. Awesome. Thanks. Ready? The year of common sense. Okay. So that's good. So you're all feeling very hopeful this year. And I think what's great about that is we often do start looking at the new year with some hope. We look at, you know, all the exciting things we want to do. We might set some lofty intentions or goals for ourselves. And then if it's anything like last year, near the end of the year, Alicia and I had spent some time at Innovation Week with Bridget and Amber on behalf of the Rainforest to talk about leadership, to talk about the social contract and how to build trust. And some of the conversations we had with people were people feeling like they had so far to go. They were looking at the stairs ahead of them, like in this visual, and they were saying, I'm still so far from the top. And so what really became important or poignant in that conversation was noticing how far you've come and looking back, because it's so easy to forget how far you've come and all the lessons you've learned along the way. So to Alicia's point there, what we really want to do is, before we jump into the enthusiasm of the new year, which many of you already have, we want to make sure that what we're doing is reflecting and thinking about what we can learn from where we've come from and how fortunate we've been on our journey, and consider all these things we might have had to overcome in order to get where we are today, and then use those lessons to propel us going forward. So we're gonna put out a few reflection activities. We're gonna go into breakout rooms. It's gonna be very interactive and give you some prompts to start to think about all of these things while looking back before we move forward.
Thanks, Megan. So for anyone who's curious, this is just a checkbox in PowerPoint that you can press to get the captions that allows you to create a more inclusive presentation so people can follow along. And I know they continue to work on the technology behind it, but it's pretty good for providing that opportunity. And it's even better for people like me who speak a little bit quickly. And if people don't catch it, they can always read it because PowerPoint does a pretty good job of catching what I'm trying to say. And that fits really well with our focusing on the inclusion part of our social contract. So like Megan said, we really want to spend the time encouraging all of you to interact and engage. I think the really important part about the rainforest and what I learned through my time during Innovation Week was the connections and the collisions that it creates. And so we're going to put you in breakout rooms. We were just waiting to see how many people there are, but there'll probably be 4 or 5 of you in each room. And we have these questions, and you're not going to have time because we're giving about 10 minutes. You're not going to have time to go into every question, but this is just to get you going. Is what do you really want to share? What's important to you to share about the year gone by? So thinking about things that you accomplished, what were some of the challenges that you overcame? If you were to just pick one lesson that you learned, what would that be? And then who helped you along the way? Who is that person that encouraged you or maybe said to you, zoom out and look how many stairs you've already climbed. You're almost at the top. And at the same time, who did you help? I think that sometimes we miss when we reached a hand out and supported someone else and really created the support that person needed to move forward. So I think Amber, I can see her madly doing breakout rooms. So she will put you in breakout rooms, and we will ensure that you do have these questions as well in each of the breakout rooms.
I think Alan's asking for a link. This is just simply a conversation. It's intended for you to reflect and also to share and hear from others on and learn really from what they've learned and what they've overcome in the past year as well. So please just enjoy the conversation, be reflective, be open as much as you can. This is a safe space. And when you come back, we won't hear from everybody, but we'll be curious to hear if anyone has any reflections that they'd like to share, or any themes they noticed in their room as you were talking about how the year went. Okay, here we go. We'll see you back here in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Starting to trickle back in. Oh, and now everyone's here, I think.
It's nice to see your faces.
Went from a trickle to a deluge of people.
Everybody.
So we're not going to debrief every room, but I'm wondering if there's a few people that want to share something that really resonated from the conversation they had.
And maybe an even bigger question is, did you have any challenges staying on topic to talk about what it was we were talking about? Ross.
We had a young lady who recently came to Canada that I thought shared the biggest wisdom, and that was that her family and friends were the kind of cornerstone to her life, and that's probably the wisest thing that perhaps I heard in that session.
Wow, thanks, Pete. Yeah. Ross?
We had a really good heartfelt conversation. I kind of had a little bit of a long rant. We kind of went in different directions, but kind of covered all the questions in general. Yeah, really heartfelt, thoughtful conversation, talking about just aspects of getting involved with the community and different people who have influenced us. And a little bit emotional, so I'm not necessarily going to go into all of the details, but that was good.
That's great.
I know, if you're wondering what we do in the 10 minutes that you're gone, we had the same conversation. And I think it's interesting that we really, a lot of connection came up in ours too, and how the community and the connection that we had was so critical to being able to continue and excel in what we're doing. So I'm going to continue to move us along. So I'm going to share my screen again. And the one thing that I'm just going to briefly, I shared my desktop. You don't need to see that. The one thing that I'm going to mention is, we've talked a bit about Inkley, and when I signed up for Inkley, and I admittedly did this just quite recently, it reminded me a little bit about this reflection exercise that we did, because it asked me to describe myself in 3 or 4 sentences. It asked me about my skills, it asked me about my interests, and it asked me about my purpose. And so I just thought it was a really nice tie-in to the conversation we were having. And this other component that's going to become more and more important through the rainforest is how we leverage technology. And Inkley's a great example of this, to be able to support one another. So I wanted to make that call out, and I knew if I didn't put a slide in, I would forget to call it out. So just putting that out
and
there.
It's such a lovely tie. I was just going to say, Alicia, like, it's such a lovely tie because it's really about reflecting on what it is you learned can help you propel forward, but it can also surface then what you can give to others, and what experiences and lessons learned and wisdom, to use Pete's word, that you can share with other people around the community. And so Inkley is a great way to then capture all of that. So we've gone through the hard work of reflecting today. And yeah, take a look, and Amber has put the link into the chat there as well. And then we're gonna, as we move into the next part of this conversation, we are going to give you an opportunity to start asking questions and thinking about what's coming up next. And so one of the things is Alicia and I were reflecting on not only ourselves personally, but also all the cool work that the rainforest is doing. We were reflecting on how the social contract comes to life in our world, and what we've been trying to share and through Innovation Week at Platform that happened near the end of the year. And it's really about, how do we lead and how do we connect with each other in this ecosystem, in this innovation ecosystem, and how do we build that diversity and trust, which is so important to what we're trying to do here today. So for anybody who hasn't had a chance to check out the social contract, you can see the social contract items listed here in capital letters. In green. And then what we have done is we've kind of said, okay, from a leadership lens, which is Alicia and I are huge leadership nerds. It's been our practice within our careers. And what we've said, okay, was what does this look like in action? If we are all leaders within this ecosystem, how do we demonstrate and live out this social contract and lead within this ecosystem in order to build trust? And so all of these different words here around inquiring with curiosity, advocating and amplifying others, fostering connections, speaking with candor, and leading with generosity and compassion are all ways to lead and build trust. And so that continues to be our intention as we look ahead this year. It's sort of something that we're drawing from on last year, and we're continuing forward this year. And so what we'd love for you to do next is look ahead. And I'm going to have Alicia kind of share a little bit about this.
So, and I think there's a couple things that it's very easy for us to lose sight of the stairs we've climbed. And in those stairs, there's been a lot of lessons and we've learned a lot. And so sometimes it may feel that we don't know what we have to offer to others. But if you have the opportunity to zoom out or look back and reflect, you can see that there are a lot of lessons learned and a lot of great content and that you have to share. So we're mixing this and this looking ahead. So when you talk about your intentions for this year, next year, like I'm still in December, here we are, January 2023. So what's one word? And again, this is going to be something you discuss in breakout. So one word to describe your intentions for this year. And then when you look at these, these areas that we identify in our commitment to leadership, which is inquire with curiosity, advocate and amplify others. Pete, you showed a great example of that in sharing somebody else's wisdom that you heard, nurturing and fostering connections, speaking with candor, and then leading with generosity and compassion. So which of these areas will you be focusing on to ignite trust in our organization? So we're going to put you back in breakouts. I'm not sure if they'll be the same or not, Amber. Well, maybe a roll of the dice, and we will ensure that we broadcast these to you, but you can think about it right now. One word to describe your intentions for this year, and where do you really want to focus for you to ignite trust in this community? What's the thing that you think you can give to this community?
And draw upon what you heard in the last one. What did you learn?
Yeah. So press that join button.
We'll see you soon.
Well, 10 seconds. We'll see everybody else come back.
So fun.
So while for those folks who've already come back, we'd love to, if you want to play by annotating the slide and putting a little mark next to the 1 or 2 items that you would like to focus on to ignite trust. So in order to do that, just click on view options. It might be at the very top of your screen and you click on the word annotate and annotate.
It could also be on the bottom if you're not,
Yeah,
if you're
it
just
could be on the bottom
screen, it will be along your bottom menu. It's an annotate. So a couple things. Welcome back, everyone. Just what we're going to do is just to give everyone a view into what people are thinking. If you can put your 1-word intention in the chat, that will allow us all to just be, I think, inspired by people's intentions for the coming year. And then you can already see people are starting to have fun with the annotate function. So if you go into your menu, there is a little button that says annotate. And if you could just scribble or underline or however you want to, we're just going to have fun with this screen, where you want to focus your skill set and your time to ignite trust in our community. And, we'll really look forward to seeing everybody's actions throughout the upcoming year. So I'm just going to give it another couple seconds before I switch slides because I'm enjoying this annotation.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I
And
also
just see the chat, such great words: connections, focus, vision, collaboration, transition, progress, and persistence. Great words.
I think too, I maybe pay attention to if there's anybody who has a word that's similar to yours, reach out. This could be, you could have, some accountability partners here or people who you can connect with who are trying to do the same thing or have similar intentions to you, and how might you work together?
All right. Looking at, I really like, this is my first time using the annotate. So I'm appreciating everybody's creativity with this. Things are underlined and okay, so I need to get out of annotate so I can move us through this presentation. All right. I'm going to move forward. Oh, look at, there's hearts. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, interesting that the annotations stay on the next
it just
slide.
stays there, but that's okay. This is so, there's probably a clear button that we haven't discovered yet, but this is all about learning.
Yes. We'll have that clear button.
Yeah. So kind of the last thing really is that moving and intentions are great places to start. It's wonderful to look back, to kind of pull from that reflection and that learning and place it into this year and set some intentions. And then really to move into action, it's about creating some rituals. So I don't know if anyone has read some of James Clear's work around atomic habits, but it's not about setting big lofty goals. It's about finding small tangible acts that you can do routinely to try to shift some of those habits that you have and realize your intentions in small ways. So what we'd love for you to do is just, we're not going to go into breakout rooms because we're getting close to time here, is we want you to just spend 2 minutes reflecting on that intention that you have and some of those things that you want to do in order to build trust within this community. And think about one specific action you will take in the next 30 days to try to create a ritual around achieving your intention. And if you can think about that and then write it in the chat if you feel comfortable doing that. So give you a moment of quiet.
I love seeing these come in. And so I think there's some great examples of what we talk about with a ritual, as far as that, some people are setting time to do work, not just the meetings, which I think is a really hard thing sometimes to do, but it's a great ritual to get in to ensure you have that thinking time and can get the work done that you're committing to. I myself, I see that Megan, you've write down what I'm going to focus on, and then I'm going to paste it on my mirror so I can look at it each morning. I think that's great. Or even on your screen, that's something that I've worked with a lot of people through conversations, is that Post-it notes on your screen can be a great reminder of that thing that you need to do. I know something I did for myself a little outside the work is I signed up for swim lessons. So no matter what, I have a once a week time where I'm going to get in the pool and be an uncomfortable learner. So I think that's one thing that I was able to put out there and commit to, and it delivered in all the discomfort that I was looking for.
Yeah, I love what Marty has said here around responding to an Inkley question each morning with coffee. That's a wonderful ritual, and it's actually a little bit of a hack, a life hack when it comes to rituals, is that you actually pair a new behavior that you want to incorporate in your day with an already existing ritual, and by doing that, it allows you to gain a new habit. So that's a wonderful hack, Marty. I'm excited.
And I like that you specified local beer, Pete, and so making that commitment. And so what's really nice is that if we go into our sort of our last slide, it really was, you know, asking a question with Inkley or starting with curiosity. So when we want to set out our leadership commitment and live to it, one of the easiest ways is starting with curiosity. And Inkley gives us a great platform for that because it's based around asking questions. And I love that then we heard that commitment to sitting down and also answering the question, which I think is towards the end of our leadership commitment, which is leading with generosity, right? And being able to give some of ourselves and our wisdom. The questions that are already on Inkley cover a wide variety of skill sets, and it really will allow anyone to feel that they can contribute both in asking questions as well as answering questions. So I think, again, we sort of are anchoring ourselves in a really great tool that can live beyond the lunch without lunch or when you have this concrete meeting, but to create connections in the in between. I see that Marty, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody that answered my question. I was super scared because, again, I'm new to the community, I've only been around for about a year. And I asked what I thought was a really dumb question. And there were a huge number of responses and super nice, supportive, helpful, not just like, you're an imbecile, why did you ask that question? Which was what I was expecting. So yeah, I just want to say it does work, and thank you very much for everybody who's responded. I'm going to respond to everybody that answered it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Marty. And you know what, Megan and I were talking about your question last night. So I think it's also important to remind yourself that the question you think is a dumb question is likely one that so many other people are having. I think that's just a great example. Appreciate your vulnerability, and that it lives everywhere. And sometimes it just takes someone brave enough to voice that question. All right.
That's kind of it. Thank you so much for being here and engaging, and hopefully this has you thinking and reflecting on lessons you can take from last year and intentions as you're setting this year, and how to create some rituals to move towards those intentions. It's great to see you all, and we're excited to see you soon.
Ask a quick question, and you don't need to give me a full answer right now, but there's a lot of people in the world that are in the challenging space of having had a bad social economic background, upbringing, blah, blah. I mean, it goes on and on. How do we bring this to that community, those communities?
I think that's a good question to ask on Inkley, and also for us to have a conversation here. So are you talking about, Pete, how do we bring more diverse perspectives, experiences, groups into this conversation?
Not everybody's got the same sort of advantages that many of us do. And
yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
So it's a starting point. That's a different starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it to Inkley, Pete. That's a great one to bring to Inkley. The magic of Inkley, I'll just reinforce, like, some of the interactions we're seeing between individuals who very likely would not otherwise run into each other in, their daily circles. So having access to the folks on there and being accessible to everyone else on there, it's really powerful. So I love Marty's suggestion of integrating that to your morning coffee. I'll have to wake up at 5 to avoid my children interrupting me doing that, but I am going to copy. Thank you, Megan and Alicia. That was really great. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I generally don't take the time to do these things. And it was really good to take an hour and reflect and set some intentions for the new year. So we'll do that individually. We'll do it as a community. We'll do it within our teams. I'm really excited to see the growth that happens all over the place this year. Are there any community announcements in our last 2 minutes? other than you better have filled out the scorecard, and we hope to see you on Inkley.
And Inkley let me in. Yay.
Oh, good. Yeah, a bit of a roadblock there and long story behind it. But if you're having challenges getting in, just contact Amber. There is an intentional gate to getting in, just to avoid any trolling and that sort of thing with the way the text, the point the text at right now. Scorecard Inkley, woo.